All right, happy Tuesday, everybody. Welcome to Survive to Thrive. Tuesdays and Thursdays are training days. So grab a pen, grab some paper, get ready to take some notes. This is a participation exercise. So I'm going to ask you if you're in a quiet space, take yourself off mute just so you can talk with me because I want some back and forth here. Otherwise, this isn't going to work. So don't leave me hanging, all right, guys? All right, here's a question. Everybody write it down. If you could choose, if you could choose, what kind of life would you live? If you could choose, what kind of life would you live? Do you see the trap?
Intentional
Intentional. Tell me more.
to wake up each day with a path, direction,
Okay.
and stay on that path and mean it. Do the things that you said you would do to
Okay.
reach a goal that you set for yourself.
Okay. Okay. All right. There's no wrong answers here, everybody. This is a mastermind conversation. So I'm going to read the question to you again. I have a reason for having this conversation with you today. So pay really close attention. If you could choose, pay close attention. Man, it's right in front of you. If you could choose, what kind of life would you live? You see why so many of us are indifferent to the question and completely disregard the answers.
Because we can always choose. It's not an if, we are choosing.
All right, there you go, Dr. Sylvia. There you go. The question implies that you don't have a choice. If you could choose, what kind of life would you live? Implies that you don't have a choice. The principle is little known, but heartbreakingly true. It is impossible for a person, write this down, it is impossible for a person to outperform his or her acknowledged capability. Think about that for a moment. As you look at yourself in the mirror, as you look at yourself and you compare yourself to other people, which by the way, you should not do. Comparing yourself to other people is the path to mediocrity, but we do it. You're on social media and everybody is living an amazing fairy tale life if you're watching their life on social media. And you look at their life and you're like, if I could blank, blank, blank.
No.
Yeah. And your thought process is, I wish my life was like their life. Yeah, I know, Russell. I agree with you, buddy. I agree. But it's not like I'm following you guys. I don't have a secret camera in your homes. I'm not watching you drive down the street, Debbie Clark. I'm not listening to your conversations, but I know what you're thinking because I know how I think. It is impossible for a person to outperform his or her acknowledged capability. Okay, did you hear that? It is impossible to outperform your acknowledged capability. If you have a vision of what you're capable of, it's a lid. You're never going to go past that lid. In order to get to better, you have to change the way you see yourself. If you don't see yourself living your ideal dream life, you're never going to live your ideal dream life. A person cannot achieve beyond what he or she really believes to be the truth about themselves. A person, I'm reading this, I'm sharing notes with you because I want you to write these things down. A person cannot achieve beyond what he or she believes to be the truth about themselves. Raise your hand if you're like me and you grew up in a less than ideal environment where you were not being told you're amazing, you're incredible, you can do anything, you absolutely raise your hand if you're like me and you grew up in a less than ideal environment. The second school that I was kicked out of, so there you go. I was kicked out of two schools. Quit laughing, Joe Grant. It's not funny. I was kicked out of two schools, and the principal of the second school, sixth grade and seventh grade, the principal of the second school told my parents he will either end up in jail or dead. I'm not in jail. I'm not dead. But do you think that all of us deal with those? Yeah, Kim Jerry, you can just take yourself off mute and talk to me. I want to hear what you have to say. Unless you're raising your hand digitally to my question.
Yeah, I was really resonating with what you said because I tend to a lot of the time create a lot of chaos around me because I'm extremely an overachiever, and that's something that I really want to resolve and
There,
get better at.
there you go. We're going to get there. All right. This principle states that what a person really believes is so powerful that his or her belief actually controls their behavior. Your beliefs control your behavior. If you're familiar with point FAR, the whole idea behind point FAR, PTFAR, is you have programming that leads to thoughts. Thoughts lead to feelings. Feelings lead to actions. Actions lead to results, and results lead back to programming. So, Joe, if your programming is stinking thinking, as Zig Ziglar would say, if your program is stinking thinking, the actions are going to align with your programming. If you want to change your actions, you have to start by changing the program. Until you change the program, the actions are never going to change. If you see yourself as an average real estate agent, you're never going to be more than an average real estate agent. If you see yourself as a struggling real estate agent, you're going to be a struggling real estate agent. But if you constantly see yourself as the best vision of you, then your actions will align with how you see yourself. In fact, to correctly predict the level to which a person might achieve, one needs only to discover the truth about what that person believes.
I totally agree with this. And as I spoke on luxury this past week and they asked me how I got there, I said, I just proclaimed myself a luxury listing agent. I just became it. I believed it. I sat in this room, at this office where this really high producer was in, and I just look at that and I was like, I want that. I am that. I can be that. And you just make it happen.
That's right. Good stuff, Jacqueline. Thank you for speaking up.
Yeah.
Does anybody know what imposter syndrome means?
Have that too.
It's the who am I, who am I, who am I?
Say it again.
It's the who am I, who am I, who am I to do
Tell me
this
more.
particular thing that I'm looking to do.
All right, Birgit, tell me more. This is right up your alley. I mean, I should have just handed today's lesson over to you and let you talk this because you would do a better job at this than I am. By the way, there's my imposter syndrome showing up. Did you guys see that? You guys see that?
Yeah, exactly. And I know exactly what you feel like because we all have these comparisons. And we are called, just like you were saying, Jacqueline, you're called to gift us talk and you're working yourself into it. and not planned these thoughts, but you might have thought, well, who am I to do this? There's all these other people doing it so much better. They're better speakers, they're more eloquent, they're more experts on the subject matters, so on, so on, so on. Next thing we know, we talk ourselves out of the opportunity that we are given because it is due to some of the program that and a belief system that we hold on so dearly because that is what we operate from within.
Priceless. Really good. Birgit, thank you so much for sharing.
Yeah.
Guys, she has massive value to share. How many of you are interested in hearing more from Birgit? 100%, right? So she's leading Survive to Thrive on Tuesday. So make sure you're here and make sure you invite your friends. All right.
John, on that note, I think imposter syndrome kind of, a lot of people have it different from the different roles that they play, because I've actually talked to a lot of coaches who have imposter syndrome because you're coaching to a thing that you know is correct, and you're not always completely proficient in that area, but you have the knowledge of how to coach people towards that direction. However, a lot of the reason why you're coaching in that direction is because that may be an area that you as a coach really need to work on. So it's like you feel like, you know what, I'm not doing this at the top level, but I'm coaching it at the top level. And there's a little bit of imposter syndrome there. And I've talked to a lot of coaches, and they experience this in one aspect of real estate or another.
There's also a phenomenon called, made famous by Julie Cameron, the shadow artist. So people who actually want to be artists but feel like imposter syndrome become, I lived in Hollywood, was in Hollywood, Los Angeles, become agents or become somehow enablers to the actual artists, whether that be actors or painters or coaches. I was a professor myself, so I know the coaching situation. But so it's often also called a shadow artist. So instead of being the artist itself, you step into the shadow of an artist to kind of get a little bit of that gold dust without being it yourself, which you are called for.
Yeah, no, I think it's a good observation. And at the end of the day, if I don't coach on the areas that I am not super proficient on, then I'm really not an imposter. You're a fraud, because you're supposed to coach the person to their strengths.
All right,
and also well-rounded.
Let's pause on that really quick, because I definitely have something super important to say here on that subject. So proficient, I think, is the word that you used. I'm going to use two different words. Perfection. First of all, I think perfection is a destination that you're never going to achieve. Perfection is always out in the front of you. If your mindset is you are constantly on a journey to improve and become the best version of yourself, perfection is an unattainable goal. But if you think progress, you're focusing on the gain and not the gap. Now, Michael, I know you, you're an amazing coach. You have enormous value to offer anybody who is listening to you. Does that mean you're perfect? No. Sorry, buddy. Don't mean to break your bubble there this morning, but you're not. Neither am I.
Oh, I knew that.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Neither am I. By the way, I deal with imposter syndrome. 100% I do. Diller, I love what you said in the comments. You must learn to be aware of using negative language tactics in your programming. So if you don't already know this guys, we live in a negative world. I mean, just think of some of the silly things that we say. I'll give you a couple of examples. A loaf of bread has two ends. Why doesn't it have two beginnings? Why do we call them stoplights? Why don't we call them go lights? Why do we call it a weekend? Why don't we call it a strong end? I can give you more. Russell, talk to me.
I'm just an example. Yesterday, on Michael Terlongo's call, there were little technical difficulties at the beginning. Michael, I got a one-on-one with you and Jacob. So it was not perfect, and it ended up being just like awesome. And so I was the recipient of hanging in there. It's real life.
And I appreciate you hanging in there. A lot of people kind of dipped out and didn't get the value. I'm glad that you got some now.
Good stuff.
We call it the Yudi syndrome. And my mother's maiden name was Yudi, and I love her dearly. But it was always like she never told us she didn't love us. It was that you need to be careful. Like, be careful what you reach for because you might not make it. That's incredibly harmful. It's so harmful. And they think they're being loving and protective, and what they are is it's very damaging. It's enough of my psychoanalysis.
The Dream Giver by Bruce Wilkinson. Write it down, everybody. Russell, this is for you. So in The Dream Giver, it's a story about a man, a young man, whose name is Ordinary. Everybody who lives in Familiar, that's where Ordinary lives. He lives in Familiar. Everybody else who lives in Familiar is also called Ordinary. And one morning he wakes up and he's got a feather in his windowsill. Now, the feather is a sign that the dream giver had visited him the night before. It's a feather like from an angel's wings. And he wakes up excited. He's got this dream that he is going to pursue. He is super excited, and he goes out to tell all of the other ordinaries, because everybody who lives in Familiar is named Ordinary. He goes out to tell all of the other ordinaries about this dream. Now, do you think they got excited? Do you think they were supporting him? Do you think they were telling him, you can do this, go get it, you've got this? No, they were bullies. And they started telling him that you're going to get hurt. You need to think smaller. You need to be more careful. There's too much risk to do this. And just when he was ready to give up, he found his dream champion. And the dream champion, that's what all of you should be looking for. The dream champion said, you can do this. You've got this. Matter of fact, I'll go with you. I know you can do it. It's in your heart. You were made for this. You were designed for accomplishment. You were engineered for greatness. You've got this. What's the moral of the story? Get rid of your dream bullies and find your dream champions.
Don't be the crab in the bucket. I always liken it to the bucket full of crabs, right?
They're grabbing at one another, pulling each other down. Yeah.
There's always one who tries to get out, and everybody else, tries to hang on to that one and pull that one back out. So do not end up being that crab in the bucket.
That's right. That's right.
The other question is, are they pulling that crab down, or are they trying to climb themselves up, and as a result, they're pulling the crab down?
Ooh, as I think as humans, they are pulling the crab back down because we like to be in the familiar, and therefore do not rock the boat by trying to do something different, because now that's unfamiliar and uncomfortable.
And it evokes insecurity in them. I experienced that firsthand. I left LA in 2018 and drove by myself in 3 big dogs, also Mexico down to British Honduras on my own. And my friend, especially one, was just like under the guise of being concerned for me, the crab in the bucket, and I just had to break it off with her because it made her insecure about her own life.
Mm-hmm.
Brian Copeland, you had your hand up. Talk to me, buddy.
Today's call made me think, in bringing it back to real estate. All this is very important, but there's a new agent in Austin that quit his job, is going all in real estate, and I said, what are your goals? And he said, I want to close 50 transactions in the next 5 months.
Right.
And immediately my thought was, this guy's either like the Michael Jordan of real estate or insane, right? But after I thought about it for a second, I said, you can do it. Go do it, and encouraged him, and we'll see where it ends up. But who am I to tell him that he can't achieve that if that's his goal?
That's right. That's right. Good job, Brian.
And by the way, I thought your video this morning was completely fitting for the conversation. Every one of those people has an incredible belief in themselves.
Yeah.
And that's why they are who they are.
Agreed. All right. So as we're wrapping up this call, here's my message for you. And 86 people on the call today, by the way, everybody. So great job. And I wish there was a way we've got 4 pages of people that are on the call. And I wish there was a way I could bring all 4 people right here because I want to look at every single one of you. Until you have the self-confidence to go after that dream life that you were designed for, borrow the confidence that I have in you. If you could look at you the same way I look at you, I see no limitations. Nick Demers, Joe Grant, Kim Jarrett Whittington, Bob, Bola, Birgit, Russell, Tobin, Clem, Joe, Debbie, Jacqueline, Brian, Michael, Jeannie, Dr. Sylvia. I don't see any limitations here. I see a screen full of people who were engineered for greatness, designed for accomplishment. Anything is possible. Now, until you have the self-confidence to go after your goals and see yourself the way I see you, see yourself, borrow the confidence that I have in you. All right, that's a wrap, everybody. Make it a great day.
Thank you, John.
My pleasure.
Thank you, John.
Have a great day, John.
Same to you. Go get it.
Thank you, John.
Thanks, John. Needed that.
Thank you.
Got it. Jacqueline, we'll come back to the other conversation. I promise you.
No worries. I'm glad it got out of my head. I'm good.
Going to be okay. But let's go get them.